Hello and welcome to Module 4, where we will discuss trade policymakers and food safety. The specifications of food safety and the related technical regulations can be a challenging area for trade policymakers. Here, we will delve into an essential aspect that plays a role in both specification and policy development, the political aspect. The primary goal of governments is to protect their citizens. Government and food laws exist to safeguard the citizens and food consumers in the country. However, national differences in risk perceptions can be exploited to protect local industries from international competition. This means that while codex may serve as a reference, some countries may have their own specifications, relying on science and risk perceptions. Therefore, there are national differences in risk perceptions, and these differences can be exploited to protect local industries. This answers the question, why do you want to change or introduce a new specification? Some industries have specific specifications not covered by codex. Additionally, there is always the possibility that interest groups may try to influence governments to enact technical regulations that ultimately act as trade barriers. Let me remind you of the SPS case, the conflict between Canada and Australia regarding salmon. This case was SPS-related, focusing on food safety, leading to the formation of trade barriers. Sometimes the motivation is unclear. Is it to protect the domestic industry or genuinely ensure consumer protection? Is the idea about food safety or protecting the local industry from global competition? Sometimes things are not entirely clear, and it becomes a gray area. Distinguishing between these goals is challenging, as the difference between them is very subtle. Often, there is no clear distinction, and what complicates matters is that some specifications may not be designed as trade barriers, but they end up having that effect. Remember the second case in the conflict, the settlement of disputes between Canada and Australia. Therefore, we can conclude from this discussion that there are key considerations that trade policymakers should take into account, such as risk perception, understanding the magnitude of risks. Knowledge and risk assessment can lead to changes in technical specifications that create trade barriers. It is essential to think about the risks and not impose excessive restrictions, as seen in some countries. Pressure groups and lobbying can also exert influence on governments to change specifications, not necessarily for consumer protection, but to create trade barriers and protect the local industry. The third consideration is the driver. What is my motive? Is the motivation food safety and protecting citizens and consumers, or is it protecting specific goods or other unknown objectives? This is also a gray area, and we may not always know the true intent behind it. Of course, technical barriers should be understood, knowing what can happen behind this issue. Some countries enact legislation leading to the suspension of their goods. Understanding unintended technical barriers is crucial, as the motive is not always to impede trade, but it can result in trade halts and problems. In the end, there must be a balance and calibration of risk, striking a balance between barriers preventing trade and creating a safe environment based on specific legislation in your country. Ultimately, we don't want to say that we will allow everything, causing an impact on food safety and security, leading to consumer problems and potential disasters or pandemics later on.